If I asked you right now, what kind of man do women truly respect? Most of you would probably say the rich guy, the tall guy, or the one with perfect looks. But the truth is, none of those things guarantee respect. Because respect isn't something you can buy or fake. It's something you earn. And once you understand how, everything changes. We live in a world full of mixed messages about what women want. Social media tells men they need money, status, or six-pack abs. Movies make us believe confidence means arrogance. And too often, men try to play a role instead of becoming the man women naturally admire. In this speech, I'm going to break down the exact qualities that separate the kind of man women tolerate from the kind of man they actually respect. By the end, you'll know not only what women look for, but also what you can build in yourself to become that man. Let's start with the first key point, because without this, nothing else really matters. Self-respect. You cannot expect someone else to treat you with respect if you don't first show it to yourself. And I don't mean that in some abstract motivational poster way. I mean the real, day-to-day choices you make about how you let people treat you, what you accept in your relationships, and the standards you hold yourself to. Women notice it immediately. They can see it in how you walk into a room, how you speak, and how you react when someone crosses a line. Think about it. If a man constantly puts his own needs last, says yes when he wants to say no, or avoids conflict because he's afraid of losing approval, what does that communicate? It says, I don't value myself enough to protect my time, my energy, or my dignity. And if you don't value yourself, why should anyone else? Respect always follows self-respect. It's the foundation. Without it, everything else crumbles, no matter how charming, successful, or attractive you might appear on the surface. Now, self-respect isn't about arrogance. It's not about walking around with a chip on your shoulder or demanding people treat you like royalty. It's quieter than that, but also more powerful. It shows in the discipline you keep when no one is watching. Do you keep promises to yourself? Do you set goals and actually follow through? Do you choose relationships that uplift you instead of ones that drain you? These aren't flashy traits, but they're the roots of strength, and women can feel that energy, even without you saying a word. One of the most common mistakes men make is confusing being nice with being respectful. A lot of men go out of their way to please women because they think it will earn respect or affection. But here's the thing, kindness without boundaries isn't respect, it's weakness. A man who sacrifices his own needs just to keep the peace isn't seen as generous. He's seen as someone who doesn't believe he deserves more, and eventually that leads to resentment, not respect. Contrast that with a man who knows his worth. He's polite, yes. He's kind, yeah. But he won't tolerate being spoken to with disrespect. He won't stay in a situation where he's taken for granted. He knows how to walk away when his values are compromised. That's self-respect. And the fascinating thing is, when you carry yourself like that, people automatically start treating you differently. They measure their words more carefully. They show up more consistently, because they recognize they can't play games with someone who respects himself. If you think back to the most respected men you've ever met, maybe a teacher, a mentor, a boss, or even a friend, you'll notice they all had that same quality. They didn't chase after people's approval, and they didn't try to be liked by everyone. They set their standards and lived by them. That quiet certainty creates a gravitational pull, and in relationships women lean into that kind of man, because they can trust him to stand firm when life tests him. At the end of the day, respect from others starts with the mirror. The way you carry yourself teaches the world how to treat you. And until you demand that standard for yourself, you'll always struggle to earn it from anyone else. The second thing women respect in a man is consistency, and this is where a lot of men stumble. Too many people believe that respect comes from making a strong first impression, looking sharp, speaking confidently, maybe even showing off some charm. But a good first impression is like a spark. It might get attention, but it's consistency that keeps the fire going. Without it, the spark fades, and so does respect. Consistency is simple in theory, but rare in practice. It's about aligning what you say with what you do, over and over again. If you tell someone you're going to be there at 7, show up at 7. If you say you'll call, if you make a promise, keep it. These might sound like small things, but they aren't small to the people around you. They're signals. They say, I'm reliable, you can count on me. And for women, reliability is one of the clearest signs of strength and maturity. The opposite is also true. Nothing kills respect faster than inconsistency. A man who says one thing and does another might be entertaining at first, but eventually he's seen as untrustworthy. It doesn't matter how much charm or confidence he puts on. If he's unpredictable in his actions, respect will vanish. Because deep down, everyone knows words are cheap. It's the follow-through that reveals a person's character. What makes consistency so powerful is that it's steady. It's not about dramatic gestures or trying to prove yourself all the time. It's about creating trust through repetition. Imagine two men. The first one talks big, promises the world, but rarely delivers. The second one is quieter, doesn't boast much, but when he speaks, you know he means it, because his actions always match. Who do you think women will respect more? The answer is obvious, because the second man has built a reputation that doesn't need to be advertised. His consistency speaks for him. Now let's be clear, being consistent doesn't mean being boring. It doesn't mean you never take risks or surprise someone. It means your core doesn't shift depending on the situation. Your values don't bend just because it's convenient. Your behavior isn't dependable one day and absent the next. That stability is magnetic because it allows others to relax around you. A woman can feel safe respecting a man who won't suddenly change his standards or betray his word just because it's easier in the moment. There's also something deeply attractive about a man who's consistent with himself. He doesn't just show up for others, he shows up for his own goals, his own growth. He builds habits, sticks with them, and doesn't let excuses derail him. Whether it's his work, his health, or his passions, he shows steady commitment, and that self-discipline communicates volume. It tells the world, this is a man I can count on, even when things get tough. Because the truth is, life will test you. Anyone can be impressive for a day. Anyone can act strong or confident for a short while, but respect isn't earned in moments, it's earned over time. Women respect men whose words and actions align, day after day, because that kind of consistency is rare, and rare things are always valued. The third thing women respect in a man is his ability to control his emotions. And notice I didn't say suppress his emotions, because that's not strength, that's avoidance. Too many men grow up being told to man up, or don't cry, or keep it together, and they confuse that message with the idea that emotions themselves are weakness. The truth is, emotions aren't the problem. The problem is when you let them run the show. Think about how people respond under pressure. Some men explode at the smallest frustration, raising their voice, throwing insults, or even breaking things. Others shut down completely, go silent, and withdraw as soon as something feels uncomfortable. Neither of those reactions earns respect, because both show a lack of control. If a man can't manage himself in difficult moments, how can anyone trust him to handle bigger responsibility? Women especially pay attention to this, because how a man manages his emotions in small conflicts says a lot about how he'll handle stress, disappointment, or even intimacy. Emotional control isn't about pretending you don't feel anything. It's about being able to sit with your feelings without being consumed by them. Anger, sadness, jealousy, fear, these are all human. But the respected man can experience them without letting them dictate his choices. He can take a breath instead of lashing out. He can express frustration without being cruel. He can feel hurt without shutting down. That balance shows maturity, and maturity commands respect. Now you might be wondering, how do you build that kind of control? It starts with awareness. You have to notice your trigger. You have to know what pushes your buttons, and learn to pause before reacting. It's like being the captain of a ship. You can't control the waves, but you can control how you steer. That pause, that ability to respond instead of react, is one of the clearest signs of strength, and women notice it right away. There's something calming about being around a man who doesn't lose himself in his emotions. It makes people feel safe, because they know he won't turn every challenge into chaos. He can handle a disagreement without making it a war. He can face stress without collapsing under it. That steadiness doesn't just make him more attractive, it makes him someone people can lean on. And in a relationship, that's invaluable. On the flip side, when a man constantly reacts with anger or insecurity, it chips away at respect. No amount of charm or intelligence can make up for volatility, because respect requires trust, and trust can't survive when emotions are unpredictable. A man who shows that he can stay grounded when things don't go his way earns more than just admiration. He earns confidence from the people around him. So when we talk about emotional control, we're really talking about strength at its deepest level. It's not the absence of emotion, but the ability to guide it, channel it, and choose your response. And that is the kind of strength women will always respect. The fourth thing women respect in a man is when he lives with purpose. And this is bigger than just having a job or paying the bill. Purpose is about direction. It's about knowing who you are, what you stand for, and where you're going. Without it, life feels aimless. You might drift from one thing to another, chasing distractions, chasing approval, chasing quick highs that fade just as fast. And women can sense that lack of direction almost instantly. A man with purpose doesn't need to brag about it. He doesn't need to announce to the world how focused or ambitious he is. You can feel it in the way he moves, in the way he speaks, in the way he spends his time. He knows what matters to him, and he structures his life around it. That kind of clarity is magnetic, because it signals strength, discipline, and self-respect all at once. Now, purpose doesn't have to mean some grand mission, like changing the world, or building a billion-dollar company. It can be as simple as striving to become excellent at your craft, building a strong family, or contributing something meaningful to your community. The size of the purpose isn't what earns respect, it's the commitment to it. Because when you're committed to something larger than yourself, it shows you have vision, and vision is one of the most attractive qualities a man can have. Contrast that with a man who has no sense of direction. He spends his time scrolling endlessly, complaining about circumstances, or waiting for someone else to tell him what to do. That kind of energy doesn't inspire respect, because it feels passive, and no one respects passivity for long. A man without purpose ends up being pulled into everyone else's plans, and over time he feels resentful and frustrated, because he's never steering his own ship. Women respect a man with purpose, because it shows he can lead himself. And if he can lead himself, he can be trusted to lead in other areas of life too. Leadership doesn't mean controlling others, it means having a clear vision, and the courage to walk toward it, even when it's hard. That steadiness is reassuring. It creates it says, I know where I'm going, and I'm not easily shaken. What's interesting is that when you live with purpose, you also stop needing constant validation. You're not looking for someone else to give you direction, or to define your worth. You're not desperate for approval, because you already know what matters to you. That independence is powerful, and it shifts the dynamic in every relationship. Instead of needing someone to complete you, you choose to share your journey with. That's the difference between being respected and being tolerated. So if you want respect, stop asking what women want, and start asking yourself, what am I building? What am I moving toward? And what do I stand for? Because once you find that and commit to it, respect doesn't have to be chased, it comes naturally. The fifth quality that earns respect is the ability to set boundaries without bitterness. This is something many men struggle with, because they either avoid setting boundaries altogether, or they enforce them with anger. Both approaches miss the point. Boundaries aren't about control or punishment, they're about self-respect, and they communicate clearly how you expect to be treated. Think about what happens when a man has no boundaries. He says yes to everything, even when he doesn't want to. He lets people interrupt him, take advantage of him, or speak to him in ways that are disrespectful. Over time, that doesn't make him look generous or easygoing. It makes him look like he doesn't value himself, and women especially pick up on that quickly. If you can't stand up for yourself, how will you ever be trusted to stand up for a relationship, for your family, or for the things that matter most? On the other hand, some men swing too far the other way. They finally reach a breaking point and start enforcing boundaries with hostility. They snap, they get defensive, or they cut people off in ways that leave behind resentment. That doesn't inspire respect either. It just shows that they were suppressing their needs until they couldn't take it anymore. Boundaries set from bitterness are like walls. They push people away instead of creating healthy respect. The kind of boundaries that earn respect are calm, clear, and consistent. They don't need to be loud. They don't need to come with a long explanation. It's as simple as, I don't tolerate being spoken to like that, or that doesn't work for me. No drama, no resentment, just clarity. And here's the thing. People may test your boundaries at first, but once they see you uphold them without apology, they adjust. Because deep down, people respect those who respect themselves. Women especially respect men who can set boundaries with composure. It shows emotional control, it shows self-respect, and it shows maturity. When a man can calmly say no without guilt, it proves he isn't driven by fear of disapproval. That steadiness is powerful, because it communicates that his value doesn't depend on pleasing everyone around him. And in a relationship, that balance creates trust. A woman can feel secure with a man who knows how to protect his own dignity, without being cruel or dismissive. What makes boundaries so important is that they aren't just about others, they're about you. They're about protecting your time, your energy, and your peace of mind. When you set boundaries,
You're saying to yourself, I matter, my needs matter, my values matter, and that kind of self-respect radiates outward. People begin to see you differently, they know where they stand with you, and they know not to cross certain lines. At the end of the day, boundaries are not about building fences to keep people out. They're about drawing lines that define how you live, and how you expect to be treated. And when you can set those lines without anger or apology, you earn a respect that can't be faked. The sixth quality women respect in a man is strength paired with respect for others. Too often strength is misunderstood. Some men think it means being dominant, always getting the last word, or making sure everyone knows who's in charge. But that kind of force doesn't earn respect. It usually just creates fear, or worse, resentment. Real strength is different. It's steady, it's confident, and it never has to belittle anyone else to prove itself. A man who has true strength carries himself with a kind of quiet authority. He doesn't need to raise his voice or flex his status to be heard. People naturally listen because his presence communicates certainty, and yet the most respected men balance that strength with kindness. They don't use their power to push others down, they use it to lift others up. That balance is what makes them memorable and admirable. Women pay close attention to this balance. A man who is strong but dismissive, arrogant, or controlling doesn't inspire respect, he inspires resistance. On the other hand, a man who is respectful but lacks strength often comes across as passive. What earns respect is the combination: someone who is confident enough to stand firm, but humble enough to treat others with dignity. That's the rare mix that makes people feel both safe and valued in his presence. Think about the men you admire most. They probably weren't bullies, and they weren't pushovers either. They had the ability to make tough decisions, but they also treated people fairly. They didn't need to make someone else small to prove they were big. That's the kind of strength women look for, because it shows leadership without ego, power without cruelty. This quality also shows up in how a man handles disagreement. Anyone can be respectful when things are going smoothly. The real test is when opinions clash, or when emotions are high. A man who can stand firm in his beliefs, while still listening, still respecting another point of view, shows remarkable maturity. It proves that he isn't threatened by differences, and that he values respect as much as he gives. Another piece of this is how a man treats people he doesn't need. It's easy to be polite to someone you're trying to impress, but how do you treat the waiter, the cab driver, or the person who can't give you anything in return? That's where true character shows. Women notice that, because it reveals whether your respect is selective or genuine. Real strength isn't conditional, it shows up everywhere, with everyone. So here's the truth: women don't respect a man because of his looks, his bank account, or the image he tries to project. They respect the man who respects himself, who lives with consistency, who controls his emotions, who moves with purpose, who sets boundaries, and who balances strength with respect for others. If you want to be that man, don't wait for anyone else to hand you permission. Start building it now, choice by choice, action by action. Because the moment you decide to embody these qualities, respect stops being something you chase and starts being something you naturally command.